how are you guys now trying to avoid, mentally letting this game carry over, letting these last two games carry over now into Tulane?
Yeah, I guess I'd just say everyone's trying to have a mentality where, play the next game, play the next play mentality, and just, it's a new week. It's a great opportunity against a ranked team in Tulane. Good defense, and then obviously it's an away game. So it'll be good to play at a different atmosphere, and have opportunity to play against and beat a ranked team.
Is it easy to kind of go with that play the next play mentality? Because obviously it's one thing to say it, but after two games like this, is it tougher to kind of have that same mentality?
No, like it's hard to have that mentality after suffering those two losses. Just the way that they played out were, very, very interesting. Like flows of the game, wasn't a regular game at all for either of those games. So it's kind of hard to put it in the past, and it may linger. It lingered in my mind, like I said last week before the ECU game a little bit. But I mean, at this point, it's Wednesday. I'm on to the next. I'm on to Tulane.
Now, when you look at when you evaluate, looking at how you guys started, right, against ECU and against Houston, how do you take that and keep that in your mindset as you're going into Tulane? Because it wasn't like it was all bad in either one of those games.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we just need to, bring the Temple and North Texas games and then the Houston and ECU games and kind of bring them together because, everyone was on us for not starting fast those first two games, but then we finished strong and we won those games, whereas the last 2 weeks we started fast and then we didn't really finish the games. So we just need to come together, not take anything to heart really about starting slow, starting fast, because we know we're capable as offense. So just bring it all together and limit the turnovers, and we'll put ourselves in a position to win the game.
And then I asked Ryan this in terms of the conference standings, right? At this point, the more chaotic it is, the better it is for Memphis, and you guys are in a position to kind of create that chaos because you have Tulane on your schedule, you still have UCF on your schedule. So knowing that, what's the urgency going in to knowing that you can create that chaos against the Tulane team that's near the top of the standings right now?
Yeah, I mean, the urgency is at an all-time high, in my opinion, just because, every conference game you want to win, but especially having lost those two extremely close games the last 2 weeks, we know we're capable of winning big-time games. So, obviously, those two losses, conference games, were disappointing, but, I mean, we know that we can do it, and we just have to execute. It comes down to that, and just being able to, make impact in the conference, because we know we can win games. So just got to come out with a sense of urgency for sure.
What do you think has been maybe the biggest difference with the second half where you guys haven't been able to maybe finish as well as you have started to think?
I mean, that's hard to say, one thing in particular, because, I mean, there's going to be ebbs and flows of the game. If you start out scoring in your first three possessions, you're going to have drives that eventually stall out. But just because that's how the game goes, it's hard to play a perfect game, especially as an offensive player. But just turnovers, that's the main thing. Like, if we had just punted that ball in that situation going into the second half instead of turning it over, then, things might have been different. And then as far as the Houston game, I mean, there were just some crazy plays made. No onside kick, special teams. I wouldn't say anything offensively or defensively in particular. Just some crazy plays. And then obviously ECU game we went to overtime, but we could have put ourselves in a position to not have gone to overtime just with the turnovers. So just continuing to play the game. We started good in the second half, too, our first drive against ECU, but fourth quarter they had the ball in the majority of the quarter, so it just flows of the game, like I said.
I know you guys take pride in finishing drives, so what do you think you guys have kind of done maybe this week to try to work on that from the last 2 weeks where that seems to be a concern in the second half again?
Yeah, I mean, like you kind of said, it's been a concern or something like that in the second half. But, I mean, we've been finishing drives pretty well, putting points on the board at a pretty consistent rate. But like you just said, just further down into the fourth quarter of the game, just little things, missed blocks by the receivers, backing ourselves up. I took a sack against ECU, one of the drives that we ended up just getting a field goal. So just trying to limit negative plays whenever we get down to the red area, and just continue pushing forward, especially late in the game whenever we're all worn down. Whenever their defense and our offense are worn down, churning out those drives, long drives, and then we're in the red area. Just gotta, limit negative plays and push forward.
I guess what I mean, like finishing drives, like you guys have gotten field goals, but I guess with touchdowns, I guess, like how much do you guys, is that a concern? Maybe is that a concern for you guys that you haven't gotten as many touchdowns as you wanted in the second half of the last couple of games?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say a concern. We always want to have touchdowns every single drive, but to be able to, we definitely have faith in our field goal kicker right now. He's been having a great year, and so just being in the position to score points is always a good feeling. But obviously we're trying to score every single drive. But, like I kind of mentioned earlier, ebbs and flows, we're not going to be able to score every drive. We want to, but some plays might not work out the way we want them to. So that's unfortunate, but we just got to try and execute better and put ourselves in position to get the first down and continue to try and score.
So just to kind of clarify, to knock it down a little bit, in the second half when you guys are getting more field goals instead of touchdowns, it's more of an execution thing for the most part?
Yeah, I'd just say just limiting negative plays and then not taking sacks.
Yeah, in terms of the halftime, is do you think part of it is defenses are reacting to you guys different, or is it more just on what you guys need to do execution-wise in terms of the slow half?
I mean, we came out fast. I feel like against Houston and ECU, and then obviously over the course of the game, defenses are going to adjust at halftime to what they think that they're seeing, and then come out with a kind of edited game plan for the second half. So they're going to make their adjustments at half, which are trying to stop what we did. So I mean, they may have success and they may not, but I mean, we just try and execute our side and go through our own jobs as offensive players. And really, it's about us. That's what I've always had that mindset in high school and now. If we all do our jobs as an offensive unit and just left tackle does the left tackle's job, I do my job, receivers do their job. They don't have to make any spectacular plays, just do your job, and we'll put ourselves in a position to be successful as an offense. So it's always on us. It's not really about what the defense is doing. I have to go through my read, and that's what the defense is doing. If they're stunning, then, right guard. If they're twisting, just go through your gap, and then stuff like that.
Yeah, Ramsey mentioned the big play with Prescorn. He said that he was actually like the fifth option in terms of the read progression. It just played out that way. When you're going through your progressions, how beneficial is it to know that you have a big target in Caden when he is the fifth option to be able to make a play like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great feeling. He's really come along as one of our playmakers on the offense side of the ball, and just to have him on our team makes me feel safer. And just I slid to the right in the pocket a little bit and then found him in the flat, and they lost him, and he was just catching the ball and making plays for us. So I mean, obviously it's a great feeling, and then having some receivers step up more and more, that will help our offense all the more.
And as you guys are going through tape for Tulane, what are you seeing out of their defense that you guys may be able to exploit?
Yeah, I mean, they're just really sound. I mean, they all do their jobs and do it at a high level. They're physical. I think their linebackers are their best unit, personally. They'll drop their boundary defense end a little bit. They'll do some different things, kind of cover three a lot of the time. So, I mean, we're going to try our best to exploit the holes and, try and get the run game going and have a mixed offense. But at the end of the day, we just need to do our job. And, I mean, they're a good defense, obviously. They've played well through their first 7 games. So, just excited to get the opportunity to play them.
You compared last week's team to what kind of Coach Barnes has done a little bit. What do you see? Does this defense kind of remind you of anybody, especially with how well they defend the pass?
I'd say a little bit like Temple, but different up front. And I think their linebackers are better than Temple's. But, I mean, at the end of the day, like I said before, we just need to execute our jobs as offense. I need to throw the ball. Receivers need to catch the ball. We need to be able to run the ball. And then, trust our game plan, trust what our coaches are telling us to do, and we'll be successful.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you, guys.